you ready to Snapplique? This video is part of a series for the Happy Halloween quilt by Amy Bradley Designs. Snapplique is an automated method to take a paper quilt pattern, scan it into the ScanNCut, and convert it into a machine embroidery design. You can even use the ScanNCut to cut out all your pieces. You'll be able to create blocks like this for your quilt with an embroidery machine and no longer have to go around each individual piece with a domestic sewing machine. This method is a lot of fun and it's a real time saver, and I hope you join me. Let's get to it. This is the first of a series of videos that is going to go through making this adorable Happy Halloween quilt from Amy Bradley Designs. I do have permission from Amy Bradley Designs to show you how to make this quilt using a Brother ScanNCut and your home embroidery machine. You do not have to have a Brother home embroidery machine in order to make this quilt. If you are not interested in making the Halloween quilt, there's an alternate pattern. I've got links below to all of this in the description box, but there's an alternate pattern for the Merry Christmas quilt that you can make that is going to use the exact same process. I've got a blog post down below that explains about all of the supplies that you need and how all of this is going to work. Okay, so we are going to start with the little ghost today. He is so cute. Check him out. So we're going to start with the little ghost, and that's because he's got the fewest pieces. This video is going to go very baby step by baby step, in depth, to show you how to make this quilt. And if you get stuck anywhere else in the rest of the blocks, you can always reference back to this particular video to make sure that maybe there was a button that was pushed wrong or something like that, and you'll be able to do this. I did discover while I was getting ready to make this particular video some interesting things with the graphics in the pattern. So I'm glad that happened so that I can show you what happened and then show you how to fix it. So we are ready to get started. Buckle up. This is going to be a lot of fun. I'm here at the Brother ScanNCut, and I'm going to do two sets of scans. The first scan I'm going to do is of page 47 and 48 of our little ghost, and this is the design placement guide. So I'm going to turn this into a JPEG, which will be a picture that will sit in the background of the embroidery software that I'll be able to lay the vector graphics on top of to be able to create the applique. This is the Brother scanning mat. And if you don't have one, I highly recommend you get one. It is not sticky at all. It has a black band at the end, and that's how you can tell what's what. If you're thinking about getting a scanning mat, you need to be sure to look at the code at the bottom. See how it says DX in there instead of CM. If you have a DX machine, you need to get the one that has DX on it. They are not compatible between the old CM models and the new SDX models. So this is not sticky. It has a clear cover on it that acts as a dust cover. And on the ScanNCut, you've got two little ledges right here that are near the black rollers. And you just want to put the mat right in between those two little ledges and just push it up there flush as far as it will go. Now on the main menu here on the ScanNCut, let me zoom you in. When you first turn it on, it has some pretty examples of projects you can make. I'm going to touch it and it says the carriage will move, so keep your hands out of the way. I'm going to tell it okay. And we get the main menu. On the main menu, you have pattern and scan. Pattern are patterns that were in the machine when you bought it. So if you touch it, you get shapes and fonts and borders and frames and lots of little pictures and whatnot. I'm going to hit the back arrow and go back to the main menu. And then the other option we have is scan. On this menu, you can do a direct cut, or you can scan to cut data. That's the button that we're going to use to create the vector graphics from the paper pattern. And we have scan to USB. you want scan to USB. Go ahead and put a USB drive into the ScanNCut. And on the ScanNCut, the USB drive is located right here. Let me move my little, this is a command cup. I like to put it there to put all of my little tools that I need. But you can put a USB drive right in here. This is a USB drive from powertoolswiththreadstore.com. I like to have this because it's got a little light on it. The light tells you when the files are active and you know it's not safe to eject it. So when I plug it in, it blinks a little bit and goes steady, and it is ready to go. So what I'm gonna do is take my little image here. I taped these together so that everything aligned properly. You can see through the first page and make sure that everything is lined up properly. And I'm gonna lift the little clear flap and push it up flush as far as it will go so that it is laying nice and straight. It's very handy on these patterns to have the paper so that it is up flush, and it's just gonna come in straight then into your embroidery software. So this is ready to go. I'm ready to load it. Here on the side of this screen, we have an on-off button, home. This is your mat load and unload, and this is pause. So I'm just going to hit the load button. It has loaded, and now I'm just going to touch scan to USB, and I'm just going to press start. And it's going to pull in the mat and take a picture of what it sees. When you scan to USB, it runs very slow. It says it has saved to the USB media. File name is image number 12.jpg for JPEG. I'm going to tell it OK. Now it's brought us back to this menu, and now I want to scan to cut data. So I'm going to remove the paper from the scanning mat, and I'm going to put in the first page. This is the pattern piece sheet for the applique. Now, I found out, because I scanned these, and I'll show you this in a minute in Brother Canvas. This particular piece and the body piece, when I scanned them in, they scanned in with double lines. Now, there's no double line here that you and I see, so the nose, the eyelids, and the eyes were fine, but not the body. So what I ended up doing, now it's time to scan in the actual vector graphic pages. These would be the pages where you would usually take a piece of heat and bond light, lay it over the top, and then trace with a pencil around on the heat and bond light. These are mirrored because the designer assumed you were going to trace the pattern on some sort of substrate that would be ironed on to the back of fabric. The ScanNCut does not like open shapes, so I've taken a pencil, a number 2 pencil, and I've drawn a line across the bottom here to enclose this shape. And on this page, because I got mine in a 3-ring binder, I just took my pencil and I drew a little line around underneath there and then moved it over here and closed it off. If you don't close off the end of these shapes in any of these patterns, you will get a very unexpected result that just won't work. It's okay that this is not, that this goes around or it's not perfect, because this actually, these overlap like this. So everything will be fine just like that. So I'm going to go ahead and scan these now. And I'm just going to take it and pop it into this scanning mat. I'm just going to put it like this. Put the mat right in there. There are 2 little ledges on either side, and the mat needs to fit right inside that ledge. And I'm gonna, it says the carriage is gonna move. I'll pop that in there. So this time when I scan, I want to scan to cut data. And I'm just going to tell it start. And it's going to go much quicker than it did with the JPEG. Okay, this looks really good. It went ahead and captured the entire thing. What I'm going to do is tell it outside only. You've got 3 buttons right here. You have outside only, inside, outside, and regions. And I want outside only. You would use inside, outside if you ever have like lettering where you need to capture the inside of a letter. Okay, that looks really good. I'm going to tell it okay. It's going to process it, and then it wants to know, where do you want to save it? I can save it in the machine, I can save it to the cloud, or I could save it to USB. I want to save it to Brother Canvas Cloud. We're going to edit the image in Brother Canvas. It says that save is successful. I'm going to tell it okay. And then I'm going to hit the back arrow. Okay to delete the scan data showing on the screen. I'm going to tell it okay, because I don't need that anymore. I've already saved that to the canvas. So I have just replaced the page with the second page. I want to scan to cut data, and I'm going to tell it start, because there's nothing in the middle that I need to capture. I want outside only as well. And I'm going to click OK. And I want to save it in the cloud. Save successful. OK. And I can go into Brother Canvas on the cloud now and clean up the video and get rid of all the stuff that I don't need. So now we're here at canvasworkspace.brother.com. How you find Canvas Workspace, if you're looking for it, I'm going to go to Google. You can type in Canvas Workspace, and it may or may not come up with Canvas Workspace download. So there are 2 different versions of Canvas Workspace. There is one that's online in the cloud, and that's where I like to work. Or they have one that is a download. You can download it locally to your own computer and work on it there. So that's helpful if your internet is not working, or maybe you're on a so-and-sail cruise and you've got your laptop with you and you don't have good internet service out there. If you just type in Canvas Workspace, what comes up is canvasworkspace.brother.com. This is the online version, okay? And that's going to take you to exactly where I was a second ago. Now, let me go to Google, and I'm going to type in, if you want the download version, I'll put Brother Canvas Download. And that's going to give you how to download Canvas Workspace. And the second one will give you the link where you can get the download. So if I click on this, click here to download. That's exactly what you need right there. You can look for step-by-step instructions, and it gives you exact instructions on how to install this. The download version does look different than the online version. So I'm here on Brother Canvas, and it's canvasworkspace.brother.com, okay? And I'm going to log in. You can click register if this is your first time here. This is free to use. And then I'm going to click login, and I can tell it remember me, but it never does. It always just makes me log in again. And your first page you come to gives you all kinds of neat projects that you can do if you want. So the tab that I am interested in here, we've got tabs across the top, and I'm going to touch on my projects. Here you can see my attempts to scan this in and make it work. All right, so I want to show you what I was talking about with the double line. Here is my first attempt at scanning in the applique pieces into vector graphics. When you hover over this box, you get two box choices. You get edit this project or download. So let's click on edit to open it up. And it's pretty obvious to me right here, these pieces all have a nice single line. But if I make this a lot larger, let me click this percentage here, look at that double line. So what happened, the reason there's a double line is, remember I told you the ScanNCut does not like open lines, open shapes. So what it did was it closed the line down here. That's what I can tell. I thought it might have been in the graphic creation process, but it wasn't. This is not going to work because it's not, it did close itself, okay? It closed it here at the bottom and here at the bottom. So this is the shape that it thinks it is, and it will cut that tiny little skinny piece. So you've got to close the bottom here, okay? This is not good use. You may be able to draw a line on the bottom of the shape before you scan it, and that very well might fix the problem and you would not have to trace. So I'm going to get out of here. I'm going to come back over here in this left menu and click on my projects. So now I'm going to click on the one, or just drag it in here. So there is my good ghost top of his head. And here is the second scan that I did, and I'm going to pull this in. All right, so now we've got these two pieces, and what we need to do is to weld them together. First thing I want to do is to clean up the mat, and it saw the edge of the paper down here, so I'm just going to grab the piece I want to keep, these two pieces, make sure there's nothing else on the mat, highlight it completely, and hit delete with my keyboard. Okay, now I'm going to take this little one and grab this and bring it over here. I'm going to make it a little bit bigger so that I can see it. And what I want to do is make sure that this line right here on the top, that it is completely inside of the head where it goes. So that's good. That looks like that's completely inside. Okay. These are a little bit off because I traced them, okay? That's all right. That's not a big deal. The software will smooth all of that out. So long as these two fully enclosed shapes are overlapping, they can be welded. So I'm just going to highlight both of them by dragging my cursor over both pieces, and I'm going to right-click and weld. And there we go. There's our ghost. If you end up with any little jagged spots, you can double click on this and you might want to just grab one of the nodes and smooth it out and click off of it. That'll be fine. I think that'll work just fine. Okay, this looks really good. Let me go back here. Now I am going to go back to that very first one that I scanned. Let me move this guy off the mat. And I want to go to this first one that I scanned because his eyes, nose, and mouth all worked. So I'm going to highlight all of, whoop, I don't want that piece. I want just this, just these guys. So I'm just going to move these guys off the mat, and I'm going to highlight the whole rest of the mat and hit delete. And it's all gone. There we go. Okay, the next thing you need to do is to mirror the image of this, because the quilt pattern designer assumed that you would take a piece of heat and bond light and put it on a light box or on a window and trace around on the paper side of the heat and bond light and then iron that to the back of your applique fabric and flip it over. So we need to flip it over before then, because I'm going to cut my fabric pretty side up. And the easy way to do that is to highlight the entire mat and right click and group. Now you've turned it into one object. I'm going to come up here to edit. There's an edit tab right up here, and I can flip horizontal. And then you want to come back and ungroup. Right click and ungroup. Now I need to save this. And to save it, I'm going to come up here into this box up in the upper left-hand corner, and I'm going to call it HH for Happy Halloween Ghost. Come over to Project, and there's an inbox with an arrow and a plus sign, and I'm going to save that. So it says saving this project is completed. I'm going to tell it OK. Now I want to download this. It says select the file transfer method. You can download to PC or Mac, either one, or you can do a ScanNCut transfer. I'm not ready for the ScanNCut transfer yet, but I'm going to download to PC, and this is the download that is going to become our embroidery design. All right, I'm going to click close. If you want to cut all of your fabric all at the same time on those designs that need more space, you can change to a 24-inch mat by coming up to the Project tab and clicking the 12 by 24. So this one, I'm going to move this guy, and you can tell by his size, he is 10.47 by 6.71. Yours might be a little bit different because of where they were merged, but he will stitch in like an 8 by 12 hoop. Okay, so this can be done. If you have a 6 by 10 hoop, then you're going to want to stitch the ghost on your domestic sewing machine first, and then you can applique the rest of the pieces. So I'm going to put the nose right here. I'm going to put his little eyebrows, eyelids right here, and here are his eyes. And that will all cut just fine, just like that. Okay, so now I want to download, and I'm going to download to ScanNCut Transfer. I could have just done this right away, but I wanted to explain to you how you could change to a 12 by 24-inch mat. All of the other blocks have a lot of pieces, and if you have a 24-inch mat, you're going to want to switch over to that first and then move these where they need to go. It's helpful to have them all on the 12-inch mat when you download to PC, so you're not having to scroll all over the screen looking for your pieces when you are in your embroidery software. I hope that makes sense. All right, I'm ready to cut out my pieces, and I'm just going to touch this and tell it okay. Let's see. All right, that's ready to go. I am using the Brother Low Tack mat. This is the aqua colored mat, and the mats between the old CM machines and the DX machines are not compatible. So make sure if you're getting a mat that if you have a DX machine, it has DX down in the code right here, whichever you're buying. A couple of little tricks you can do on the white fabric. I have put some little hash marks with a black pen so that I can tell where the margins of the fabric are. It's very difficult to see them when they are on the screen of the machine. You can use the purple mat, the standard tack mat, but it needs to not be very sticky. If you have a super sticky mat and you put your fabric substrate side down, and by substrate I mean either Heat and Bond Light or Hot Fix adhesive, if you put that down, it's going to pull off on this because of the stickiness of the mat. But these mats are not very sticky, and whether I'm using the low tack or the standard tack, neither of mine are very sticky, and so I don't have to worry about that. If you have a brand new mat, even if it's a low tack, I recommend you take a wadded up clean t-shirt and pounce it all over the mat a little bit to kind of de-sticky it a little bit, if you will. And if you have got, and then run a test, always grab a scrap from your scrap basket and run a test. If you have got a purple mat that's brand new, you're going to want to cut your fabrics pretty side down, paper side up, and make sure the pieces are not mirrored. Okay, we mirrored the pieces to cut pretty side up. So that's just the way that works best for me on this. When you have got your fabrics ready to go on the mat, you want to make sure that when you look at the back, it should look shiny, glassy. That is the way to do this, because that means that the The heat and bond light is one with the fiber of the fabric. Most of the time, I'm going to put this down here. Most of the time on white fabrics, for the eyes for instance, I will put SF101 on the back of that fabric first and then adhere that fused piece to heat and bond light. In this case for the ghost, I did not put SF101 behind the eye fabric because I did put it behind the body fabric and the eyes sit right on the body. So I'm just gonna put the rest of my fabric on here and mash it on. Your paper should peel off just like this. If it comes off and it's difficult, it's not adhered well enough. I normally will hold the iron in each spot 5 seconds on both sides, front and back. Got some extra threads in there, no big deal, it'll come out. And I'm gonna put this down on the mat. I need to move these. You don't need a brayer, but sometimes I'll use the spatula and just kind of rub it like this to make sure I have a nice adhesion of the fabric. And you don't have to look and place these exactly because we're going to be able to move the designs around on the screen to match the fabric. Okay, so let's get our design from up in the cloud. Here on the main menu of the ScanNCut, we have 2 big menu buttons. We have pattern and scan, and pattern is patterns that were in the machine when you bought it. If you tap on this, you can get shapes and cutouts and words and fonts and borders and frames and all that. That's not what I'm after. And then we have scan, okay? And we have retrieve data and test. If you have the old CM model, you have to test before every cut to make sure that you have got it right. The DX models do a depth test prior to cutting, so you don't have to run the test if you don't want to. Right now, what I want to do is get the design from Canvas, and since these are patterns that were in the machine when I bought it, then what I want to do is come to retrieve data. And when you retrieve data, you can get it from different places. You can get it from inside the machine, from the cloud, from a USB, or you might be cabled to your computer. I want to get it from the cloud, and it's going to pull down the last design that it had. So if you pull the designs down and you try to download them one after another, you're only going to see the last one that you have. And here it is. Here is our ghost. You can see a blue arrow right there because the last thing I cut was on a 24-inch mat. I need to change that to a 12. So I'm going to touch the wrench. And right here in the cut area, I'm going to change that to the 12 by 12. It's right now on the 12 by 24. And tell it OK. And OK. You'll notice on the ScanNCut you go deeper into menus and then you will back out of those menus. So now it looks like it's all on one mat, and I'm going to load the mat. You've got these buttons right here on the side. This is your power, on, off, home, load the mat, and pause. To load the mat, you have 2 kind of little ledges right here on either side. You want to take the part of the mat with the arrow and put it right up and in between those 2 ledges. Make sure it's not wonky or anything. You want it right up in there, pressed firmly against the levers, the little black roller wheels, and I'm just going to hit the load the mat button. And it's going to pull it in evenly. It's going to go in and out a little bit. On this menu right here, we have add, edit, a grouping button, and this is a scan. The blue box with a bar is a scan, and your wrench, and save, and OK. This is the magic right here of the ScanNCut, this blue box with a bar. I'm going to touch it, and it says scan the mat and show as background. Put material to scan the mat and set it to the machine. press the start key to scan. So we've already done that. I've already put material on the mat and I've set it to scan, and I'm just going to tell it start. And it's going to pull in the mat and take a picture of what it sees. And there we go. This is great. So I can see now the fabric and where my pieces need to go. Let me get you in just a little bit closer. There we go. All right. So because I did hash marks on the edge of the fabric up here on the white, I can see that I need to move my little eyes down so that it's right in the middle where I want it. Here's the nose. I'm going to grab this and put it here. My little eyes, I need to rotate those. So I'm going to come over here to the edit button and object edit. And we've got these menu buttons across the top. This is to change the size. Don't do that. We have multiples, and then we have rotate. So I'm going to touch the rotate, and I want to rotate it 90. There we go, and tell it okay, and okay. And then I can take this and just move it right in the middle of the fabric where I want it. This is why you want a little bit of a margin around the edges of your fabric, and that way you don't have to worry about hitting the edge with the blade. Now this, I did not mark, but I know pretty much where the fabric is, so I didn't mark the white fabric here. I just want to make sure that, let me zoom in on this. Yeah, so I know my fabric goes up to the 1/2 inch right up here. This is the 1 inch dot. I know it goes up to the 1/2 inch, so that'll fit. And then let me go down to the bottom. Okay, I hear you. And my fabric goes all the way down to this black line down here, so I know that that's going to work. And then my fabric goes to the 4.5. So you can see the lines, 1, 2, 3, 4.5. And I'm going to move this over. I'm going to move it over just a little bit. That's as far as it can go, a little bit back. I think that's good. I think that'll work. I'm going to tell it okay. And okay. And okay again. And then it says, please select. And I want to tell it cut. And start. Less than a minute. That's fantastic. Okay, let's see how it looks. Before you remove the mat, if you have a boo-boo or something, you definitely want to try to put your fabric back down and get it nice and flat again and let it run again. But before I eject it, I want to pull this up and take a look. Oh yeah, look at that. It's perfect. That came out great. Here are my eyes. I know it's hard to see because it's white, but you'll be able to, I'll show you it in just a second. And it turned out perfect. Everything turned out great, so I'm going to tell it okay and eject. And here we go. Look at that. I know you can see there. Isn't that neat? I love it. So when you pull your fabrics off the mat, you always want to make sure that you scrape and not pull, okay, to get them off. So it has been scraped. If you pull fabrics, especially skinny ones, like the the handle in the death block, which is a long skinny piece, you can definitely stretch them. And if you stretch them, they won't fit in your placement lines. So use your spatula, and it's like scraping a slice of pizza off the pan. Just is the best way to remove these without tugging. There we go. Look at that. That's great. This all turned out perfect. Easy peasy. Okay, I'm ready to get him digitized and get it stitched. It's time to digitize the ghost, and I want to click out of Stitch Artist first. This is the Embrilliance platform, and you can do what I'm about to show you in any high-end embroidery software. It's just a matter of simplicity, which is why I chose Embrilliance over others. If you are using BES or Simply Applique, you can also do this method. And I have got playlists on my channel for BES and Simply Applique, and you can review those to see how it is done with that software. However, with this software, I was looking for something that was so simple and easy to use. It has an interface, meaning the buttons that I'm looking at are very familiar to me. If you've ever played with a word processing program, I'm going to move my cursor up here to the top left, and you've got things on the icons up here that you would have if you were in Word. We've got new, we have open, there's save, there's print, copy, paste, undo, redo, and that type of thing. Also, to be very familiar with this, there is a rotate 90 degrees counterclockwise, rotate left, rotate right, and then we have got flip vertical, flip horizontal, center in the hoop, align, and this button right here is remove hidden stitches. We will use this one quite a bit. Now, in the Embrilliance platform, there's also 3 modules called Stitch Artist. And if you want to use Stitch Artist, if you get Stitch Artist 1, that does not have the ability to import the vector graphic, the FCM file coming from the ScanNCut. So you need a minimum of Stitch Artist 2, which does have the button for that. Stitch Artist 3 has the ability to automatically fix any broken graphics, meaning graphics that were made with an overlay, and they'll lay a line on a line, or maybe they just barely touch and didn't actually complete, and you and I see it as a single line, but the ScanNCut will see it as 2 lines and broken. If the graphic is broken, you cannot remove hidden stitches on the lower pieces if you've got overlapped applique. Stitch Artist 3 has the ability to do that. Stitch Artist builds on itself. So if you have Stitch Artist 2, you have all of the tools that are in Stitch Artist 1 as well. And if you buy Stitch Artist 3, then you get all of the tools that are in 1 and 2. If you have 1 and you want to upgrade to 2 or 3, then you can just purchase the upgrade. You don't have to buy everything all over again. I have got links below to Embrilliance, and those are my links. I get credit for that and appreciate it very much if you were to use those. If you don't, that's fine. If you have any other high-end embroidery software like Floriani or Artista or Pep, Embird, any of those other ones, they will do this, what I'm about to show you. You need to go into the user manual for those, PE Design, anything like that. Go into the user manual for that and look for the word vector, and then figure out how to import vector graphics into that software. And then from there, search for the term applique and how to convert that vector graphic into applique. I personally have found that Embrilliance is the easiest to use, and so that's why I'm using this software. In Embrilliance, to get into Stitch Artist, this looks like a little quarter of a sundial right up here in the top menu. And it says Create Designs. That means to create a design from nothing. And in our case, our nothing is a vector graphic. It's just a picture. It is not a embroidery design yet. You can jump in and out of Stitch Artist by simply clicking on that little quarter sundial. When I click on it, the menu options down below in this ribbon all change. Notice the icons, how they change, and also up here in the top menu, we have File, Edit, Utility, Create. This Create button right here is not available. You won't see it if you are not in Stitch Artist. If you're looking for it, be sure to make sure that your little sundial is highlighted. I'm going to click out of it and see how now it says File, Edit, Utility, and View. Create is gone, and our buttons have changed. I jump in and out of Stitch Artist all of the time in a single design because I want to see if my hidden stitches have been removed. I may want to flip something or rotate it, and I always use it to align or center in the hoop. You'll see me jumping in and out of Stitch Artist a lot, and the more videos of this that you watch, you're going to get more and more used to what's happening. On the screen here, this is our main design area right here, and I have a hoop on here. This is the 9.5 by 14. You can tell which hoop you have. Down here at the bottom, it says hoop 9 7/16 by 14 13/16. If you double click on this down at the bottom where it says hoop, you'll get a 90-degree rotation of your hoop automatically. Very handy. I'm going to do mine like this. Over here on the right side of the screen, we have the objects panel. So we have objects, and there are some locks up here at the top. I will be using these quite a bit. And then in the objects, you'll have numbers 1 through however many pieces you might have that are elements of a particular object. And then down below, we have the properties box. And the properties box will tell you and allow you to change the properties of any particular given piece or stitch or whatever you want. Might sound a little intimidating right now, but the more we play with this, you will get it. Up here, in this little yellow folder up at the top of the screen, this is your preferences. You can click it and go into preferences, and your very first option here is for the environment and hoops. This is where you can change your hoop size for whatever you want. And you can create new hoops, which we do for the letters block. I make a hoop that is the entire size of the letters, the Happy Halloween words, so that I know my boundaries on where everything is going to be set. All right. You can edit, you can delete hoops, you can reset defaults and all that. My format is PES. You can change it to any home embroidery machine format that you might have. That's why, even though you might be using a Brother ScanNCut, you don't have to have a Brother embroidery machine to do this. You can do this using any home embroidery machine. On the jumps and overlaps right here, you want to make sure that remove overlaps when saving stitch files and treat objects labeled applique position as filled are both checked. That's very important in order to get those hidden stitches to remove. All right. On the printing, when you go into printing, if you are making this with a smaller hoop, a hoop smaller than 9.5 by 14, maybe you're using an 8 by 12 or a 6 by 10, you will want to make sure that you have print crosshairs checked. And you may want to print the alignment snowman. Just go ahead and check both of these. It makes life a lot easier so that if you have multiple pages coming out, you can align them. And each page that comes out with the main design will have a centering crosshair on it that you can use as 0 stitch count when you put it in the machine. Printing out your design is going to help you align multiple pieces if you're working with a smaller hoop that needs multiple hoopings. I'm going to click OK. I'm good with this. This is really all that you need when you are in your preferences. So I'm just going to click OK and get out of that. All right, I am ready to bring in the background design, the picture that I saved to the USB, and that's going to show me how to align all of my graphics. I'm going to jump into Stitch Artist by clicking on the sundial. You can see everything has changed here, all right? And here on the left, we have image and vector. If you only have Stitch Artist 1, you're going to see image and the true type font button will be right here instead of vector. That means you need to upgrade. I recommend to Stitch Artist 3. Just get it out of the way and you will be ready to go no matter what without having to go through any other extra steps if you've got broken graphics. I'm going to click on image and I'm going to bring in my little ghost. There he is. Your ghost is not to scale. The JPEG image is not to scale. Well, now that I've brought that in, I don't see anything on the screen, but right here in the objects panel, there he is. And if I click on it, I can see it here, but I can't see the picture. I see where it's supposed to be, but I can't see the picture. Up here, there is a button that looks like a tree with a little sun and a blue sky. That is show or hide the background image. If you're ever not sure what a button is, you can hover over it and you will get what is called a tool tip, and it'll tell you what that button is for. So I'm going to click on show the background image, and there he is. Now I want to bring in the vector graphics. So I'm going to click on the vector button, and right there, happyhalloweenghost.fcm. That is what I'm looking for. That is the file I saved from the ScanNCut down from Brother Canvas. All right, this looks really good. The first thing I want to do is to resize the background image to the correct size so that I can get the orientation right of the rest of the pieces. I'm going to highlight the image over here in the objects panel, and I'm just going to grab a corner. I'm going to hover over a corner until my cursor turns into that arrow, and I'm going to drag it way up. When you are in Stitch Artist, whatever object you have highlighted will have a little green box, and when you hover over the green box, your cursor turns into a hand and you can move it. So I'm moving the graphic, the picture. I'm not moving the vector graphic. So it's almost there. Not quite big enough just yet. It doesn't matter which corner. I could do it from this corner, make it a little bit bigger and hover it. That's very, very close. It looks like it needs just a tiny bit of rotation. It does not have to be exact at all. The idea is it's just giving you an idea of placement. So again, look here, it says placement sheet. That's those 2 pages for the placement sheet. And right now it is not centered in the hoop, and that's fine. We will get to that in a minute. All right. What I want to do is, so that I don't accidentally resize this, it looks like I rotated him a little funny. He's fine, right? I'm looking up here, and it'll be fine. I don't want to resize this anymore. So while the graphic is highlighted, I'm just going to click on the little yellow lock. That makes sure it can't be resized. It still can be moved. Now what I need to do is to put everything in the right order for stitch order. Over here in the objects panel, this is your stitch order. I'm just going to highlight on this, right click and move last to put the picture down at the bottom of the list. It doesn't really matter. It will not stitch out. It does not change anything in your order. It's just easier to look at this and say, okay, 1-1 is the face. That one goes down first. Then we have number 2 is the eyes. Now the placement sheet has each piece is numbered, and that tells you what order things go in. So number 2 is the eyes, and that's right. This is the left lid, and this needs to go down first before the nose. I want to reorder this. There's a couple of different ways you can do it. You can right click it and move earlier, and that will do it. Now I want to move the other lid, or, and I use this method more often, not on the word line, but on the picture, you can grab it and you can drag it and hover it over on top of the one you want it to be after. I wanted this lid to be after that one, so I hovered it over it. And then the nose is number 5. All right. The eyes need to be rotated as well as the lids. I'm going to highlight them in the Objects panel. There are some keyboard commands that I'm going to use throughout this video series that are used to select objects. If you hold down the Control key, you can select one object at a time and skip around. Let me deselect by clicking on the main screen. If you highlight the first one, hold down the Shift key, and then highlight the last one, that will select the first one, the last one, and everything in between. I will use that throughout all the time. Get very used to that. You'll become very familiar with it as time goes on. My eyes and my lids are all upside down. So I'm going to highlight the first one, which is the eyes, hold down the Shift key and highlight the last one, which is the lids. I'm going to jump out of Stitch Artist by clicking on the sundial, and then I'm going to rotate 90 and rotate 90. There we go. That looks good. When you're building these designs, sometimes it's easiest to build a grouping together that is going to stay together. For instance, I'm going to go back into Stitch Artist by clicking on the sundial, and I want to hide my background image because it's kind of in the way. So I'm just going to click on my little tree and sun icon again. All right. You can zoom in by using the wheel on your mouse and scrolling. You can get really big. Or another thing you can do is you can hold down the space bar. Watch my cursor. When I press down the space bar, it turns into a hand, and then I can pan the screen. Very handy. I want to zoom in now, and I'm going to click one of these. There's my handle. And I'm going to click the other one. I'm going to hold down the Control key and click the other lid. And I want to move these down onto the eyes. Now they're too far apart. I'm going to scroll in very close, space bar, and pan over. I recommend using your arrow keys when you want to make minute movements on pieces. So let's highlight the right one, and I'm going to use my arrow key and move over as close as I can. I am looking to get this point right here even with this point. When you get very close, you can hold down the Control key and use your arrow keys and make tiny little movements. And I'm going to move it up just like that. Maybe one more, just like that. That looks good. I want to do the same thing here. Highlight this one, arrow key, and then arrow up. And that looks really good. We still have a little tiny bit of gap. Y'all, that's not even a thread space. It completely depends. To me, this is fine. This will work. What you're looking for when you build these is that this edge right here is pretty smooth. That looks nice. But you also have enough of a gap between the top edge of the eyes and the bottom edge of the lid so that when it comes time to remove the blanket stitches that would be right here on the top of the eyes, they are removed as hidden stitches. Maybe this one, I'm going to arrow it over just a tiny, maybe one little click. That looks good. I'm pretty happy with that. So now when I move the eyes, I'm going to move them as one by clicking all 3 of the eyes, the lids, and moving them as one. Let me put the body and center in the hoop. I'm going to jump out of Stitch Artist and click this button right here, center in the hoop. Very good. That looks good. And I want to bring my background design back in. Stitch Artist and bring that back. Let me highlight the image, center in the hoop. And close enough, I will move it so that it's important. It doesn't matter about the background image being centered in the hoop. It matters about the embroidery design being centered in the hoop. Now I want to move the eyes to where they need to go. I'm going to highlight the eyes. And you can make your life a little bit easier. Look at that. Ta-da! That actually got it just right when I was doing that. Let me do the nose. If you are having a hard time seeing this, you can make your life a little bit easier by highlighting the first one, hold down the Shift key, highlight the last one, and you can change the color by clicking on the color chip down here, and you can change it to red, whatever you want. And then what that did was not a thing because I changed it to silver. Click on that, just change it to red. Now you can see easier. See that? You can see it a lot better. The only thing you really have to remember when you do this is that you change this back to black before you convert it to an embroidery design. And you just click on the color chip and you get a thread dialog box and you're on color tab, and I'm going to change it to black and double click. And that changes everything back to black. I want to save this now. This is in the right orientation. I'm pretty happy with it. What I'm going to save is called a working file. It's not an embroidery design yet, and I'm not ready to make it an embroidery design yet. I'm going to come up here in the left corner to File and Save Working File, or Control S is a keyboard shortcut. And I'm going to save it as ghost.be. So it is the working file. Now what I want to do is make sure that I don't have any broken graphics. So I'm going to zoom in real close. If you guys see any movement at all, that means we had broken graphics. If we've got broken graphics, you're going to have to change the lower piece. If you don't have Stitch Artist 3, you're going to have to make the lower piece its own embroidery design, and then you're going to have to merge that back into the final design. I want to highlight the design that selects all of everything here and go into Stitch Artist, back so we can see the Create button. I want to create outline, and I'm going to come right down here to reconstruct outline. Let's see if we have any movement. Yes, we did. We've got tiny bits of movement. That tells me that there were things that were broken. If you have Stitch Artist 2, you will either need to fix that broken graphic yourself manually, which isn't easy, or you can apply stitches to it and save it as an embroidery design and merge it back in. All right, let me Control Z to undo that. I want to show you what I'm talking about. I'm going to highlight eyelid lid. That seems like that was the trouble area right there. And I'm going to, on the design area, right click and copy, and I'm going to make a new, I'm going to click on new up here in the top, right click and paste. Let's get back to this. Again, to fix the broken graphics, Control A to select all, create outline, reconstruct outline. If you have Stitch Artist 2, you won't see this right here. So that fixed everything. Let me come over here and show you on this other one. This is Stitch Artist 2 method. Let's see if we can do it. It is selected. Let's apply stitches. So let's get out of Stitch Artist and let's remove hidden stitches. And only one of them worked. You can click on one of these. This is if you do not have Stitch Artist 3. And you can move it down a little bit to get it kind of out of the way. And now remove hidden stitches. And it still worked just on that one. So this is the problem if you do not have the ability to correct and fix the broken graphic. The way to fix this is if you have Stitch Artist 2. The way to fix this is to take just this piece, right click and copy, open a new picture, right click and paste. Now we have this all over it. I'm going to save it as an embroidery design. File, save stitch file as, and I'm going to save it as eyes. So we open that up, eyes.pes, open. Now it is an embroidery file. Let's go back here to where the lids are. You want to click this, delete, and we want to save this as an embroidery design. File, save stitch file as, we're going to call it lids.pes and save. Do I want to replace it? Yes. All right. Now when I get my eyes, I can right click, copy, and bring it back over here. Let me open my lids. Right click and paste. Now my eyes, I'm going to use my arrow keys to move these down. I want the eyes to stitch first, and then the lids. All right. Now, when I click remove hidden stitches, it works. Those stitches are now gone. That is the process you have to use in Stitch Artist 2 if you have broken graphics. I won't show this throughout the rest of the series, but this is important to understand and know if you've got broken graphics and you're using Stitch Artist 2. And then you can copy both of these, Control A, and copy them both and bring them back into the ghost. So for the ghost, you would remove these three, turn it into its own design, and then bring it back, copy and paste your eyes and lids back into this. That's what will work. But we've got Stitch Artist 3, and we have fixed our broken graphics, have we not? I thought I already did that. Now I don't remember. Let me see. I think I did. Create outline, reconstruct outline. Yes, we did. Great. Now I want to apply stitches to this. I'm going to Control A to select all, and I'm going to apply applique. Perfect. Alrighty. So the default is an E stitch, which is a long and a short and a long and a short. And the default stitch length is 2.5 and the default stitch width is 4. This is normally what you have. I've been playing with it and my settings were saved. I'm going to change mine to a blanket stitch. I want my stitch length to be 2.0 and I want my stitch width to be 3.0. Good. Very good. On the lids, I'm going to highlight just the lids and I want these to be a 2.5. I think that looks a little bit better. All right, that looks really good. Let's see if our hidden stitches were removed. I'm going to jump out of Stitch Artist and remove hidden stitches, and they were. You can see here now they removed all of the hidden stitches because we fixed the broken graphics. So that's just ease. Time is money, you guys. That is the only reason that I purchased Stitch Artist 3 was to be able to do this very thing right here. All right, I am done with the stitches. Now I want to make his little smile. There is a drop down arrow and you can change it to a circle. That's what I use for the eyes. I'm going to click on Draw with Points. I'm going to hold down my Shift key. I'm going to roll in, get a little closer. Hold down my Shift key. And if you have a curve, you'll want to make your points a little closer together. That looks good. And hit Enter. And then I want to use the draw tool again. And I'm going to come over here and do this one. Hold down the shift key. If yours is all jerky and crooked, don't worry about it. You can straighten it out later and hit enter. And now I want to do the smile. Click the draw with points. Start right on top of the other line. And if you have a curve, again, make your little dots a little closer together. If you have a straight line, you can just go top to bottom and be done. And hit enter. All right, I want to turn these into a run stitch, but what I didn't do was create a new design. I thought I had done that. Let's see. I want to create design and begin new design. There we go. Now I have a number 2. I'm gonna click the line and hold down the control key, select them all, and drag them down here. Now they are in here. I just do that. You don't have to. I just prefer to do that. I want all of these to have the same stitch property. I'm going to add stitches to it by giving it a run stitch. That is right here underneath this Stitch Artist icon. I'm going to click run. And the default is single and a 2.5. If you use the drop down arrow, I want it to be a double and a 2.0 and hit enter. Very good. Let me remove the background image. And now I can see if I need to straighten this out at all, you can click on it and you'll get your little points up here and you can grab them and straighten them out a little. See if you like that. See? Pretty easy to do. Also, you can zoom in real close and you can take a look and see and make sure that your stitches don't cross over the top of the cheek, the little grin. That one is a little high. I'm going to grab it, pull it down right on top of that. That looks great. Yep. I think that looks really good. It's going to do very nicely. So let me close this up and close this up. Let's do create design and begin new design. And now we're going to make the eyes. I'm going to bring the background image back in. Now I want to use this shape tool and I'm going to click the circle, hold down the shift key about at the 11 o'clock point and create a circle. It's a little bit bigger than the picture so I can scale it back in. That looks pretty good. Use my arrow keys. Whoop. Control and move it just a little bit. There, that's about right. I want this to be a fill. Here is the fill stitch right here underneath the run. All right, I'm going to click off, and here in this design, this fill, I want to make sure it's highlighted, and over here on the design area, I want to right click and copy, click off, right click and paste. Okay. And bring that over. So the eyes are identical. Now the last thing I need to do, if you notice, there is a line right here between the eyes that we need to draw. I'm going to remove the background image for now. And I want to use my draw tool again. And when you click on the draw tool, all your stitches goes away. Right here in the middle, I'm going to click where I want it to start. Hold down the shift key. I'm going to bring the picture back. And now I'm going to follow the line. I want it to finish under the nose, and I'm gonna set it so that it goes right on top. We have the eyes and then the run stitch. I got a little wonky going on in here. Let's move this, smooth that out a little. That looks wonderful. Excellent. It looks like it's part of this. That looks great. All right. He is all but finished. Let me Control S to save him. Now what I want to do is turn him into an embroidery design. I'm going to say File up here in the upper left corner, save as Stitch and Working, and we're going to call him ghost.pes. Now I have an embroidery design, so let's open it up. I'm going to New. I have a new tab. I want to bring in ghost.pes. That was this one I just did. I've done several. All right. And he's right in the middle. I can see all of the hidden stitches have been removed because he is a PES design. And now I want to bring in that background quilting. I'm just going to go to my main folder here and grab my background quilting with my basting box. There it is. And I want the background quilting to be first. Make sure that stitch is first. And I want to minimize the number of times I have to pull the hoop and go to the ironing board. I am going to highlight this and click the lock, the little white lock. That is lock and hide, like a ghost, and then click on the screen and it is gone. I'm going to open the ghost. We have placement line for the body or face, final stitch, placement line for the eyes, final stitch, placement left lid, final, placement right lid, final. I want the right lid to stitch right at the same time as the left lid. I'm going to grab it on the picture. How about if I just right click and move earlier? So it's going to go placement, placement. Very good. Now, how about the same thing for the nose? Let's right click, move earlier, right click, move earlier. It's going to placement, 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 final, final, final. And the mouth. Very good. And the eyes all at once. The software did that. It merged them all together. If you don't want them to do that, you need to change the colors, and you can do that right now. So this is ready to be stitched. I can highlight this and unlock it. And then you can see it again and send it over to the embroidery machine. Very simple to do. Play around with this. Get real familiar with the buttons. You're not going to break anything. You'll save all the time. Now that this is done, I want to File, Save Stitch File As, and I'm going to call it again. I'm going to call it Ghost dash BKG for background quilting. So that way I know that's the one that contains the basting box with the background quilting. And now I can send it over to the Luminaire. You can send this wirelessly to any Brother or Baby Lock machine that has got wireless capability, the ability to accept designs wirelessly. I'm going to click on Utility and right here, Wi-Fi to Brother Baby Lock. I click on that. And I'm just going to call it, I've sent it over there a couple of times doing samples. So I don't know how many. I'm going to call it Ghost 3 so I know this is the one. And click OK. File sent to machine. It was that quick. If you don't have the wireless capability, you will do a File, Save Stitch File As, and navigate to your USB and take it to your machine with a USB. All right. He's ready. Let's get stitching. I'm at the Luminaire. This is the Brother Luminaire XP3. And I have already hooped a 9x14 dime magnetic hoop with some no-show mesh stabilizer. I'm going to float my project in the hoop. And I am going to run the basting box twice. once as a placement line for my pretty fabric, and then another time to tack it down. So the first thing I want to do is to get my batting, and this is 100% cotton batting, and I'm going to put it with the scrim or the bumpy side down, and I'm just going to float it in here. I do need to change my thread color to a dark. I will be doing the background quilting and using batting. If you want to, you can just put your pretty fabric down and stitch out the applique, and then trim the stabilizer away from the back and put your quilt together like a regular quilt top once the block is finished. I have a 60 weight bobbin thread in the bobbin, and I'm going to pull up the design. I'm going to go to embroidery and the pocket for memory, and I've got choices here of where I can get designs. I sent it over here wirelessly, so I'm going to find Ghost. There's all kinds of stuff in here. Ghost 3, that's the one that I had, and set, and he's ready to go. So I am going to touch embroidery. Okay, and the first stitch is the basting box. I can see that in the preview, so I'm going to stitch that out now. When that's finished, I'm going to lay my fabric on top of that, and then I'm going to use the needle plus minus button to go back and run the basting stitch again, and then stitch it all out. Thread is wrapped around my needle. Okay, and the way you do this is I just fold it in half, and I just want to make sure I've got the same amount over the top as I do over here at the bottom, and the fabric is going to cover the entire design side to side. And lay this down and smooth it out. Okay, now I'm going to run the basting box again. I'm going to go to needle plus minus, and I'm going to go backwards one color stop and tell it okay. And run it one more time. Then I'll let it do the background stitching. Oh my goodness, he turned out just adorable. I know this video was long, but if you're a beginner, I hope that you start practicing Snapplique. This is so much fun, and it's going to completely change the way that you look at applique quilt patterns from now on. You're going to look at it and go, oh, I can do that in a snap. Awesome. This was so much fun. I hope you join me for the rest of the quilt. We'll talk to you soon. Go sew something. Bye.